to book chat. It's happening. My name is Maude Garrett. This is part 2 of our discussion of Project Hail Mary Avare. Hello. How you going? 15 months. Tier 3? What a legend. How are ya? What are you reading at the moment? We love to talk about not only the books that you're reading, but expand and extend an invitation to the community. You're okay. I feel the same. My hips have been acting up. Oh, how bad's that? And apparently if your hips are out of whack, then it causes your whole back and neck to be in a funk, which is why the thing that I had over last weekend. You're still working through Dresden Files. What book number are you up to, Avare? Is it all the skipping I'm doing? No, I'm glad I can get back into my skipping. Chris is referring to a video I put up this morning of me fucking crushing it with a jump rope. I have a secret, not so secret skill now. I used to be in the skipping team when I was 7 and I retired at 8. That's what you get out of it. Black Belt says, hello all, I'm so excited to chat about the last half of this book. Ivara's in the middle of a skin game. Oh, you're making your way through it. That's cool. Thank you so much to the recent follows from It's Rye Guy, yo. Indigo Bully, Bren RC88, and Birdman2108, who's just decided to follow. Say hi in the chat. How you going? Retired as a champion? Not really. I retired because I got bullied. No one is immune to getting bullied, and mine was because of my height. I was tall. Fatal Flower, not only in the chat right now using their Prime to sub, thank you so much, but also in the Discord, waiting to share their opinion on the book. We got a cool little community here. Oh, Vaidin, that's very sweet. No, one of the things we had to do as the younger people on the skipping team, there was the year 7 student who's the oldest, and we had to do a thing called Around the World. So while they're skipping, we would hop around their body, and basically they were really perturbed. They were angry that I was so tall when the other girl was so small, and she would complain that we got paired up together, and that sucked. Hi Toaster Poster, lovely to see you back here. Excited about the rest of this book too. Yes. It's a good bloody book. We're probably going to kick things off by rating it out of 5. A reminder, we have a Goodreads. If you haven't signed up to our Goodreads already, I've put a link in the chat. Stop on by. We have not only suggestions for the next book, but we've also got book discussions throughout. We should probably do this. Hey, Lisa, or Miss Necromancer, where are you? Where's Kate? Clutching my pearls. To do a little discussion based on Project Hail Mary. So if you didn't get to talk enough, or if there's something that you missed later, we can have a nice little section to continue this discussion as well. Well, I've asked everyone to give it out of 5, and already everyone's going hardcore with their... I knew it, Jimmy. I knew it. That there would be one person that didn't give it a 5. Oh no, Jeff 2.0 gave it a 4.25 and Vaidin gave it a 4.5. I stand corrected. Are you here in the chat? No, Michelle saying, happy book day, book friends. I'm working another late evening. Ugh, all of that. Let's leave it to after New Year. Work is rearing its ugly head, so I won't be on the call, but wow, this book. This might be one of the only books that I've read with true mass appeal. I'm definitely going to get a physical copy. 5 out of 5. Alrighty, we'll go down the list and rate Project Hail Mary. Before we could do that, though, we've got a new book club, book chat member that has joined up, stopped on by. I've seen him in the chat for streaming for some time. Stopped on by to book chat. Heard about this book, sounded so good, challenged himself to not only purchase the book, wait for it to arrive, and then once it arrived, finish the book by tonight to discuss it. Can confirm, did complete the challenge. Catch 22, lovely to have you in the Discord for book chat. How are you?
Tired because I was up until 4 o'clock in the morning finishing this book.
But you did it. I really respect someone that goes, you know what? All right, cool. Challenge accepted. I'm going to do what I can. I'm not going to talk the talk. I'm going to walk the walk. And you did it, but you were up until nearly 4 a.m. this morning. Was it worth it?
It was. This was a really good book. I was really surprised, actually. I enjoyed a lot more of it than I thought I would.
Did we sell it? I guess we did, because you bought the book and you joined.
Absolutely sold. Like, it's one of those, like, I'm thinking about buying copies and just giving them to people I know that need to read it.
Exactly. I mean, when we do our rating system, I'll also ask if you've recommended it to anyone or how many people that you've kind of like enlisted into the Project Hail Mary cult that we've clearly started. Perrynoid34, thank you so much for the follow. Welcome to Book Chat. Cash22, what kind of books do you like to read? What's your
this one kind of fell right into my comfort zone. I read a lot of sci-fi. I have a massive collection of the old Star Wars expanded universe novels. If I remember, I'll take a picture and put it up so people can see it.
Cool, yeah.
But a lot of sci-fi, Michael Crichton, and then some classic stuff like Fahrenheit 451 is one of my favorite books of all time.
Never read it.
Definitely read it. It's good. It's also scary.
Oh, is it? I don't like scary books.
It's not scary. It's not scary in the like now we're gonna get you, as much as that could be a thing that happens.
Like 1984 scary.
Yeah. Well, the same author, I think. No. I don't remember.
Where's my copy of 1984? It's right there. George Orwell?
No. Fahrenheit 451 is Ray Bradbury. Excuse me, wrong author.
Oh, I like Ray Bradbury.
Yes.
Martian Chronicles. I've got Ray Bradbury right here. I like this game where you tell me a book or an author and I point to it behind me. A lot of fun.
And like I said, I finished Project Hail Mary last night and immediately this morning jumped into Jurassic Park by Michael Crichton.
Again, so I'm seeing a theme when you have very, very smart people talk about science in a very palatable way. Yeah, that's what Michael Crichton did with DNA.
Crichton's science is a little bit heavier-handed than Andy Weir's, but it's still understandable.
Yeah, but I feel like that's because in Jurassic Park it's scientists talking to scientists, where here Andy Weir, the scientist, is also a middle school teacher. And that is such a crucial part to it, because it wasn't talking down to us. It was just his lingo. It was just, Oh, so good. So
one of my favorite things about this book was the fact that the science and the math was so accurate. Like, I have a degree in civil engineering, so I spent a lot of time doing physics and math. And I was like, yep, that tracks, and that works, and that works.
So that felt like fact-checking.
Really good to read that. Yeah, it was crazy. I love that about it.
Yay! Well, I'm so glad you're here in Book Club. Thank you so much for sacrificing sleep to hit the goal. We heard all about it over at the reading section on the Discord. It is a secret channel. We do have a big portion of our Discord channels locked off for those that are backing Geek Bomb. We are a fan-funded company with a Patreon, and all the funds that we make through that go straight back into the company so that I'm able to hire people. Our wonderful social media manager and website editor, Amanda Gory, who's in the chat right now, who's a community manager / like online business manager in a way. It's been lovely being able to have her join the team. Did you just write boob? Gory. I'm literally introducing you. It's still there. Look, it's right here. There's boob on the screen. You did it again. There's more boobs. Oh my God, Rachel. And she's our community manager. She is our online business manager, and she's written boob in the chat twice. You're fired. That's how that goes. No. It's amazing to be able to hire staff, hire women to work in a geek space, and we've also made unique content. 3 seasons of Dungeons and Flagons, 2 seasons of Smordcast, and I've just kind of poured my life soul into Book Chat, which we do twice a month. Kalua, thank you so much for the follow. So Cash22, really appreciate you joining the team. It's a great community. I went to say good. I was going to say it's a good little community. I take it back. It's bloody fantastic. To the point where if someone doesn't show up, I notice and I get real bummed. Do we need to check on Kate? Did she say she couldn't make it? Oh, Jay Buntrock, you're sick. Did you get the vid? Did you get the vid as well? I feel like there's a handful of us in the community that's gotten it. It's going around big time. Is the spicy cough? The black lung. That is a quote from Zoolander. You tested negative last Thursday, but you're testing again tomorrow. Oh, you poor thing. That sucks. Speaking from experience, it was not fun. Alrighty, let's rate the book. Everyone's blasted it in the chat, but we're going to go down the list. I usually do alphabetical order, but poor Avery, being A, gets targeted first often. So we're going to flip the script and start at the bottom with V, Vaidin. Hi, K. Frito. Thanks so much for the follow. Welcome to our book chat. We are rating Project Hail Mary by Andy Weir. Probably the best sci-fi book in the last year. We're saying it. Vaidin, what did you give it out of 5? What did you like about it? Have you recommended it? Has anyone recommended it to you? Go.
All right, I got a 4.5 out of 5.
That's okay.
I recommend it to a couple people I know, especially people who know like sci-fi already, so it's perfect for them.
Yep.
Though I can see a lot of people, like I said, even who aren't into that stuff normally would probably enjoy it quite a bit. Things I liked about it, I liked a lot about it. The humor, the general sense of like the characters, the way they progressed over the story. The overall plot was really interesting, like just to be able to save the Earth in that way and finding the solution. And there was a lot of good surprises along the way, especially the whole, the way they ended up being like with the main character being essentially being a coward and then kind of, proving himself essentially and saving the Iridians. I really appreciated that part.
Yeah.
Really
4.5. Why the 0.5?
Oh, there were some issues I didn't like as much. I think people like the science part a lot, but I felt like they kind of went heavy on it to some extent. Like there were so many parts where they explained what he was doing and why he was doing it, which is good in some ways, but also kind of slowed things down a lot. I found a lot of times the story behind how to stop this so you can explain why he's doing this thing, and it's like I don't really need to know why exactly he's doing this thing scientifically or why it's how it works.
Right, you've already just given the reins back and you're like, you're driving this ship.
Yeah, it just feels like it interrupts the pace a lot. And I guess it just felt like it did that a little too much. But that's all.
You know what? I kind of agree with you, and we'll talk a little bit more about that. I think we'll talk about what worked and what didn't work. Thank you for that, though. Thierry, Mr. I finished first.
I don't know if I was first, but I did finish early.
You did finish early. What'd you give it out of 5?
5.
What'd you like about it?
Everything.
Love it.
Yeah, I kind of like. Well, the ending surprised me. It was not what I expected, but with reflection, since I finished it, like I would like Andy Weir to write like the Earth side of that story.
Yes, I agree. Where there was it started in space. Hi, Avatar Will 88. Welcome to Book Chat. We are talking about Andy Weir's book, Project Hail Mary. It came out May 2021. It's not even a year old. Bloody good book. We're talking about the sci-fi behind it. I feel like the first half of the book was so anchored to Earth, saving Earth, people on Earth, that to not revisit it at the end, I agree. There was like a little ache there, but I will talk about my theory on why. But we got a 5 out of 5 for you there. Jay Button Rock is listening, can't speak, not feeling great. Gave it a 5 out of 5. Didn't you? You gave it a 5? You gave it a 5. But I'm making sure that everyone gets their yeah, you gave it a 5. Tell me what you liked about it. Favorite things? Have you recommended it to anyone? Has anyone recommended it to you? Let me know those. And we're going to move on to Jimmy. 4.25, the lowest score. What did you like about it? What cost the 0.75?
Well, I said 4 out of 5. I don't know where you got the 4.2.
Was it just 4? I thought it was 4.25 for some reason. 4 out of 5.
It's fine. Yes, 4 out of 5. If you're giving that an additional score, that's fine, Maude. That's, I guess, pity points if you like.
No, I got it mixed up with Jeff 2.0. That was my bad.
It's all good. It's all good. I'm just going for humor. Anyway, so 4 out of 5. Now, the reason why I gave it 4 out of 5 was, one, no book is ever perfect. So so if I give it 5, I guess I'm being overly generous.
Whoa, I'm going to
but
stop
that's
you
just my
there.
opinion.
Who in the chat disagrees with that? Because I'm one of them. I think that there are perfect books. I think that there are many books that are worthy of a 5 out of 5.
That's just my opinion. You
That
don't
is
have
your
to-
opinion. But it means that you can never ever give a book 5 out of 5. So a 4 out of 5 is the highest mark you'll give a book.
Well, keep in mind, I can't remember all of the things that I've given the scores of the books. I'm just telling you, in this time frame, I'm giving it 4 out of 5. If I was in a more jovial mood, I would have given it a higher score. I don't know.
So
But
it's a
the point is-
mood-based score.
I do a lot of things based on mood, for sure. Like for example, one thing I did like about the book
Yes.
is all the jokes in the book, like
Yes.
the quips and whatnot. Like fist my bump, I think it's just fist bump, and
Yes.
and stuff like that. And but towards the end of the book, it I wrote it in the chat a while ago, the Discord chat, that it kind of was like the ending of the book was kind of similar to Silent Hill, the first one, where it had multiple endings, where Harry goes through all of this stuff. Spoiler alert if you've never played Silent Hill, but it's been over a good amount of years, so I'm sure you've played it by now.
No, I haven't. I don't do horror.
It's fine. So, Harry, he's gone through all of this stuff, all of this trials and tribulations, and then the worst ending you could get is that you are in a coma and you've crashed. And this is all just a coma delusion. This is just what it reminded me of, like in that way. No, I'm not saying it's a bad thing. I just, similar.
It's the inverse of that. It starts with the coma and goes from there instead of ending with the coma and it was all a dream.
I get what you're saying. I'm just saying it was similar. I didn't say it was exact.
Okay. Jimmy,
Yes.
you're very much entitled to your opinion, and I love that we have differences of opinion in here, but from me, you're wrong. No. 4 out of 5 is actually kind of breaking my heart, but again, I love that you are sticking with that because that is how you feel, and that's what it should be. I do think it's a great conversation, though, to talk about rating, if something's perfect. I'm very generous with my 5 out of 5s. And I kind of think it's interesting you brought the mood into it because I'm like, if I had a good time reading it and I would read it again, that's a 5 out of 5 for me. Colleen was saying nothing's perfect, but this book resonates perfectly with me. I like that. Alvac shared a story, which made me laugh. I had an employee or employer, you said both of them, so I don't know which one it is, who always gave me a 9 out of 10 review, employer I'm guessing, always gave me a 9 out of 10 review because he said no one's perfect, but he was just trying to keep me from advancing past him, and now I hate anyone who says the same thing. Opinions. And I'm sure it didn't mean you, Jimmy, at all. I was just thinking that it's an interesting system that we all have here. Dallas had a bad season or two and wrote the whole thing off as a dream. The trope. Yeah. Catch-22 says that there are absolutely perfect books out there. Gory says some books are perfect for me. And Skullcleaver, you disagree, but I think you're disagreeing with... Were you disagreeing with there's no such thing as a perfect book? I'm not sure. Michelle says, I think 5 out of 5s exist, but I don't necessarily think that there's a book that a 5 out of 5 for 100% of the people who've read it. When I said Hail Mary has mass appeal, I don't expect everyone to give it a 5 out of 5, but I'm very much aware when I'm reading a book that is perfect for me. Chris says, how do we rate a book? Objectively, on feeling alone? Is there a checklist? Is art scored by how it makes us feel? These are all really, really great points. What does it come down to? Like 1984, is it a brilliant book? Yes. Does it sit with you? Yes. Does it make you think? Absolutely. Do you ever want to read it again? Fuck no. So what do you give it? And I think I'm mood-based because it's like, even though it was brilliant and it was worth a conversation, it left me feeling so depressed. 2 out of 5. And then Jimmy says, it certainly is a well-made book. Oh, my disagree was in agreement with Maude. Do you agree? Okay. Woohoo. Nox, I see that you're in the chat. Are you gonna jump into the Discord tonight? I saw you wrote something earlier. Where was it? Half Baked says hello from earlier. Oh, I already read it out. Yeah. Got it. Okay, thanks, Jimmy. We're moving on to Chris. You wrote it. I saw you write. I'll have to scroll up, but I'm pretty sure I saw you. Boobs. Well done, Corey. I'm pretty sure I saw you write yours. Did you? Chris, what'd you give it out of 5? Pianki. I'll read out some of the ones that aren't in the Discord chat. Pianki gave it a 5 out of 5. Strawberry Brie gave it a 5 out of 5. Play the Board gave it a 5 out of 5. Avery says, I've never seen so many 5 out of 5s. Wow. Toaster Poster gave it a 5 out of 5. But Chris, Nerds in Survival scenario, always fun. What did you give it? Let me scroll back. Let me scroll back down in the chat. This was a good book. It had feeling and reason, logic and silliness, importance of one person and of a world. I loved it. What'd you give it out of 5? No way, Kakahu, you're Pianki? That makes sense. Remember every now and then I'm like, some people have different names and I usually am all over it and sometimes I'm absolutely not. I think I did know that and I'd totally forgotten. Hi, Kakahu, aka Pianki. Okay, we'll get to you. Good. That makes me feel happy. 4.5 out of 5 says Chris. I wanted more. I like that. Colleen, astute observation, says this is the most consensus I've ever seen in book club. Agree. I'm so glad we did this, especially to kick off 2022 because I don't know about you, but I'm feeling 2022. Lisa, are you feeling better, my love?
I am.
Yay.
I still coughing, but feeling a lot better.
That's good. Did you like this one?
I did. I love this book. I gave it 5. Back to the conversation about how people rate things. I'm definitely on personal feelings and how I rate my books. I usually rate pretty high unless something happens in it that I just really don't like. I usually rate above a 3. But yeah, so this was definitely a 5-star for me. I loved it. It was so funny and just everything about it was great.
Did you listen to it?
I did.
You're a big listener, as am I. Rate the narrator. Narrate.
I really enjoyed the narrator, and I'm glad I listened to it because I loved getting to hear Rocky talk.
Yes.
Like that was some of my favorite parts. Like when he first started talking, I was dying. It was great.
Yes, I thought the narrator did an amazing job. Let me get his name. Do you have it off the top of your head?
I do not.
Ray Porter.
Ray Porter, thank you so much. Ray Porter, I mean, he sounds like a man who's got hair on his arms. Like he's got that man kind of sound to him. My gosh, I mean, I have a, spit it out, Maude. I've commonly said in book chat that a narrator should tell the story, not read the words. And Ray Porter does an amazing job of sharing this story, especially because it's in a first-person view. He personalizes it. Oh yeah, thank you, Pianki. He 100% has hairy arms. Can't see his arms, can confirm. That's not fair of Ray Porter. You know what I'm trying to say? Like some people just have that kind of like bravado, the sound. Like people will hear me and they're like, oh, she sounds like a blonde Aussie. You know, like people just have that kind of sound, the voice. Anyway, Ray Porter freaking crushed it. I agree with you on that one, Lisa. Have you recommended this book yet? Any bites? Bravado. Nice.
I have been telling my sister that she needs to listen to it, so we'll see how that goes. But yeah, I'm definitely going to be recommending this to a lot of people.
Love it. Lisa, I have to tell you the book that I returned, by the way, because I wonder if you've read it. So I'll hit you up on the Goodreads for that one. If you've been monitoring, you probably saw me start a book and And then it disappeared. Anyway, we had that discussion over in the Goodreads. Have you ever quit on a book, and what does it take you to not finish something that you started? So jump over there for that one too. KP Dubs bringing the subs. I feel like I have to say that now. Sorry. No pressure. Don't do that. Absolutely do not bring the subs, but it just, Anyway, how'd you find this one? Because this is your first book for book chat.
Yeah, well, no, it was
Ish?
Dresden a couple weeks ago. 5 out of 5. I really liked it. Like Catch-22, I've read like all the Star Wars extended universe things. This really kind of fell into there. So my job is retail. My college was all science and math. So I really dug all this kind of stuff. I'm like him. I'm doing metric to English conversions in my head like daily all the time. So all that was fun for me. And recommendations, I can't stop talking about this. Like for the last 3 days at work, I'm like, hey, everybody, I'm reading this book. My stepdaughter called today about a problem with her car, and I'm like, oh, great, let me help you fix that. Now let me tell you about this book. So I just can't stop talking about it.
Isn't that so great, though, that there are books out there like that just make you want to share talking about it, and like, because you had such a good time, you want other people to have a great time reading a book. I hear you on that one. Love that. Are you going to get started on Mistborn to catch up for next month?
I have no plans to do that yet.
Okay.
We will see.
Well, we got a Catch-22 in here, so we kind of do this thing where you rush the book. You sacrifice
I bought the book on Saturday. I drove 83 miles each way to pick the book up at the only darn Barnes & Noble within that range that had one in stock.
Stop it.
It was 11 degrees out. It was a gorgeous day.
I will cheers to that. My goodness. So you've got the Mistborn trilogy now?
Oh, no, I thought you were talking about this book. No, I did this book in like 3 days, kind of like Catch-22 did.
Whoa. Okay.
But,
all right.
But Mistborn, I'll keep that on my list for later. But
It's good sci-fi. No, sorry, it's more fantasy. Steampunk fantasy with a great science-based magic system. We did cover the first book, though. They're a bit of a read. So unless you're like, I love reading for 3 hours every night, it might be a little bit tough. But thank you for joining us for this one. That's awesome.
Yeah. Thanks.
And well done supporting bookstores and not, feeding the beast that is Amazon. Speaking of, if you have Amazon Prime and you'd like to use your free subscription, like Fatal Flower did earlier, hey, I'll take Amazon's money. Cool. Pianki. Out of 5.
Well, 5 out of 5. It's just a great book. As I said last week, the science, I just love the way it goes through all that and just everything, this humor, the story, it's just all wonderful.
You recommended it?
I recommend it to anyone I've met. I've recommended this book to people before ever reading it just because I knew what Andy Weir could do.
Yeah. Oh, see, this is my first Andy Weir. I've seen The Martian, but it does not have the same kind of humor. And I know that last week it was Isaac that was saying that out of all the Andy Weir books, The Martian's most similar in humor. So we have locked that in for May in our schedule. We will be reading Andy Weir's The Martian in May. KP Dubs, will you be back for that one?
Yes, 100%. Got to read that book.
Love it. Good. I really do feel like this book chat is good for people that need sort of accountability, want to read more, want to have a place to discuss said books as well. I'm a bit the same. I used to just read on my own, and it's just not as fun. You'd still do it. Mum and I used to book swap a lot and chat about it, but she would read at 3 times the speed that I would read. So I just love this. I'm just tooting my little community because it's so cool. Jeff 2.0, 4.25. At least you didn't do a 4.20 for Jeff 2.0.
I should have done.
Why did you give this one a 4.25? What cost it the 0.75, and have you recommended it?
So I've enjoyed the book. I recommended it to one person, but he'd already read it. I liked. I will say one of the things I liked is kind of the twist with Strat and the amnesia. I didn't see that coming. That was interesting.
Neither did he.
No, he didn't. I'm going to say I took probably a quarter point off. I felt like there weren't really there was a lot of really interesting science, and there were some decent relationships, but not really deep relationships, which I kind of understand. But you know, and probably his deepest relationship was with Rocky, which is tough, of course, because he's, you know, completely alien. But probably a half point I took off for, you know, their fiasco disaster getting the Talmebas from the planet. I felt like the rest of the side, you know, the rest of the planning had been really smart, and I didn't feel like that was. I thought they could have approached that in better ways. I felt like the disaster was there to serve the plot more than.
Oh, see, I kind of think they had such a smooth run that something had to go wrong. So much of science is just like, you know, critical error. It's trial and error. It's variables. It's, you know, having to figure it out on the go. So for me, like when shit started going down, I was like, yeah, it almost needed to, because it was so smooth. I have a new neighbor and they play the piano and they're playing it right now. It's nice. Anyway.
It did need to, but I felt like that was part of the problem, is the plot needed to happen a little more than, like, I totally bought the Talmebas evolving to get into the what was
those
it called?
hungry hippos, yeah.
I totally bought that, but I felt like, did they really, you know, when they came up with this plan of, you know, rotating 30 degrees and staying in midair so they could get some oxygen, I was like, well, that's sure to go wrong. It seemed like they could have maybe adapted one of those little beetle probes, which would have been a lot better suited to go into the atmosphere.
Yeah, I agree. That went a bit over.
But anyway, that's why I took the half went off.
That's fair.
But I really enjoyed it.
I preferred the first half of the book better than the second half of the book, and I'll go into why in a little bit. Jay Buntrock, you gave it a 5 out of 5, I believe. I saw it in the comments and I read that out earlier. Isaac, you gave it a 7 out of 5. Do tell. Hi, Proxima.
I thought it was amazing. I still like. I think my favorite Andy Weir book is still The Martian.
Okay.
This is a very close second.
Is it because he poops potatoes?
I think I liked it more because there is more involvement of what's happening on Earth and what's happening on Mars. So you get a little bit more of two different points of view. And this one, I really wanted to know what was Earth gonna be like when he got there.
Yeah.
And so I that was kind of disappointment, but the very last line or the very last sentence that the guy said had me in tears at the end. Because just imagining like the guy teaching, which is what he wanted to do, I don't know. It was great.
Yeah, I commented it in reading. I was like, whew, man, this is getting me. Because it was just so freaking wholesome. I love wholesome stuff from time to time. Speaking of time, changing time, thanks so much for the follow. Isaac, what did you listen? Did you read?
I listened to it and I'm looking to buy it here locally as well because I want to have a physical copy of it.
Are you listening in English or are you listening in Spanish?
English.
Oh, you are? Okay. I always think, I'm not bilingual and I always think it's so fascinating because it's like you can just dip in between. Oh, incredible. I am by, what did I call it? Well, I gotta finish that sentence. I am by measurement.
Yeah, I do that as well.
Yeah, no, you got me beat like across the board.
Potatoes.
Potatoes. Thank you, Toasted Poster, for that nugget.
I've been telling people about the book as well. And I think that's when I know that I really enjoyed something is when I finished it and I immediately want to either read it again or start telling people about it because it was so good.
I was recommending it and I wasn't even halfway through the book. I think by chapter 8, I was like, oh boy. Yeah. KP Dubs, we spoke about this. We've spoken about this in the chat. And we'll talk about why that's important. I'm so glad though that you loved it, especially having come from a previous Andy Weir book as well, and being able to compare them all. So yay! Because this was your first book for book club.
Yeah, that's right.
Yay! Love that. 7 out of 5.
Yeah, it's great. I love it.
Awesome. Okay, actually, while we're talking about that, because it's the second time it's been brought up, I have a theory. Please come back, train of thought. Oh, it's stopping at all stations. Come on, train. Your gripe with
It was
it?
gonna be a second book.
Your gripe with it was, the fact that we didn't come back to Earth. Okay, so here's why I think that that had to happen. It's my gripe as well. We are so invested in the first half of this book about how Earth is in trouble. He's Earth's savior. The whole mission is to save and protect Earth. And then Eva Strat drops this sort of thing as well, saying, in the time it takes you to leave, we are looking at facing a war. Because, who's to say that with the limited resources that we have and with in 19 years, half of the population dying, billions of people dying, they are going to want to hoard rations, et cetera, et cetera. So what's going to happen on Earth is going to be absolutely awful. And of course, she's planted that seed for us. And so it's the longer this takes and the fact that it's going to be a 4-year trip back, like, we want to get updates on what's going on with Earth. Is this trip worth it? Is there a planet to go back to? The problem is the whole book's written in first person. So he shot himself in the foot by ever being able to revisit a place that he decided to not go to. So I understand that the gripe could be, and I'm spoiling the ending of the book here, just a heads up. It's 15 for Earth. Crikey. Got it. So is it that he chose Rocky and couldn't do both? Is it a reminder that the human race is very fragile and short-living? Did we want to try and have both? Like, I think because it was first person, as soon as he decided to save Rocky and save 2 planets, it made sense. And that in turn made him a hero. But because it's in first person, it meant that we opted out of ever knowing. And I think that because Strat set up the potential disaster of what could happen, we just needed to know. Whether there was like a postscript, a blurb, a newspaper excerpt, whatever it is, but somehow being able to check in with that. So yeah, that's why I think, and I had the same thing, and I'm in that camp where it's like I just wish we knew a little bit more about Earth, because the whole point of this was Earth. Toast Post says the plot was saving Earth. Oh no, you go.
If eventually we would have gone back to Earth, then our gripe would have been then we didn't go with Rocky. So it was still going to be one or the other.
Lesser of two evils. That's it.
Yeah, but I do think maybe he's setting. I mean, and I don't know anything about it, but it could be a second book from like a Strap's point of view.
Yeah.
So
I would even love that as like
cool.
a short story. It doesn't need to be a full-blown book, but if he just like releases sort of like a chapter from Strat's point of view of what happens, I would love that. If he could monetize it somehow, I'd pay $5 for sure. Toasted Poster says, plot was saving Earth. Grace not being a coward was the story. Both ended well, I think. Pianki says, we know at the end, he could have still gone to Earth later, but he had a new home and he didn't feel the need to go back to Earth, where he had no more deep connections with anyone. Clever Girl says there were already disasters going on before he left Earth due to paving the Sahara and blowing up the Antarctica. Antarctica? Yep. Well done, Maude. Chris said he risked his life for Rocky when he would not do so for Earth. He knew he didn't have the food, and he did it anyway. I love that. Terry says we need a book in the point of view of Strat that starts when she puts Grace in the rocket. I like that. Yeah. Jeff 2.0 says it'd be interesting to know what happened to Earth, but it would probably have to be a different book. It would probably be a bit depressing to see what the consequences on Earth were also. Yeah. Book DLC, says Vaidin. You are onto something. Lisa says, like, it'd be cool to have one of his students grow up to become a teacher, telling their students that their old teacher saved the world. I love that. Avery says, I'm okay with the ending. I would have liked to have seen more, but I also thought the ending was satisfying for Grace specifically. I love that. I wonder if Andy Weir had like a little bit of torment on, God, how do I stick the landing for this? Pun intended. Pianki says Strat's POV would be from inside a jail cell. Probably. KP Dub says sequel, follow one of his students growing up through the problem and the saving of Earth and then leading a mission to Iridian later. Oh. And then Jimmy says Rocky's a good boy. Yes. We will get to that. J Bunt Rock. We'll get there. Colleen says, I think going back for Rocky shows his growth and redemption. Yeah. Chris says, Hail Mary, full of grace. Project Hail Mary with Dr. Grace. It's just a cute, small joke. I love that. Okay, so we kind of talked about the ending of the book. We're giving it our scores. Fatal Flower, you're up next. 5 out of 5, I believe I saw you give this one.
Yes, I did 5 out of 5 with it. I really, really loved it. I like what everybody else has been saying, the science, how smart and witty and funny it is. I mean, I'm right on board with all of that. But one thing that I don't think that we've talked about that I really loved is I love Rocky. He is awesome. Rocky is awesome.
Yeah. It was a given pronoun because just to make it easy, it's a given name. Rocky rocks. Rocky's made of rocks. And I think we talked last week about the fact that a lot of the time when we talk about an alien species, immediately the default is that they're trying to eliminate and wipe us out. And when because of that, I had an unchecked bias when I was reading this book. When the claw comes out and we're really confused, the whole time I'm like, who's to say this guy isn't going to, can I see your ship? I'm not going to build you a place to get into my ship, but I'm going to come into your ship. I was like, I don't trust this. I'm like, media storytelling has convinced me to not trust an alien species. And yet these two become best freaking buds. Great companionship. Saves Ryland's life. They save each other's lives. But what was it for you? Do you think that Rocky was like a huge selling point for your love of the book?
Well, I really liked how they played off of each other. I liked how, we had the science guy and then we've got the engineer. That just came together really well. I loved the part where, they first meet each other and where Rocky put up that wall of all of the different materials to see, which one he interacted with. Mm-hmm. I thought that was really smart. The entire way that they learned how to communicate with each other. It was just really nice and inventive, and you could tell that the author thought a lot about if you were meeting another creature and you needed to be able to communicate with them, how do you go from not knowing at all how they, interact, how they see, how they function, and how do you communicate with a creature like that? It was really inspiring, and I loved it.
I completely agree with you because the first one, it's like, what is a universal language if you can see? And I guess that was even discussed because Rocky uses sonar in a way and can see, can kind of hear and take on sound reverberations, whereas we humans see through light. And light is not something that Rocky or the Erids have ever really thought about. Colleen said, math is universal. And seeing the different types of maths and the different types of clocks and times that they keep and being able to learn each other's sort of methods. And I love that because Rocky is so smart, doesn't need a calculator, doesn't need any assisted help, can think brilliantly, has the memory that is just stored in a fantastic way. So English becomes the default. Again, fantastic writing. Because it means that we are not having to learn a new language. We're not having to learn a whole bunch of stuff that we don't understand. It means that Rocky is now the student. So we learn vicariously through Rocky's education, but it means that we don't have to get bogged down as well. And I thought that was really, really smart because once he kind of introduced the fact that he had his computer, he would record the sound, he would make a data bank of the sound. We never got really bogged down by that again. So I agree. I think that whole interaction, but what I was saying was like the first interaction that they had, they used models. This is a little you, this is your spaceship, go into your spaceship. I was like, that was so brilliant. Mayans use a base 20, says Colleen. Chris says math, but base 10 versus base 4. I think it was 6. Yeah, it was base 6. Yes, 6. I don't even understand the base thing. I was like, all right, that sounds smart. Yep, I'm on board. That's cool. Oh yeah, because he's got 3 and 3. on his hands. So of course it's base 6 where we're base 10. It makes sense. But I loved that conversation, Fatal Flower. 5 out of 5 from you, and we are Team Rocky big time. Darian, did you finish the book?
Oh, I'm on the last chapter right now.
Well, we fucking spoiled it for you, my man.
No, I'm on the last chapter. It's basically the epilogue, I guess. So.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm fine.
Right down to the line, the wire there. Oh.
Yeah.
What'd you give it?
Overall, I'd say 4 out of 5.
Why?
You feel insulted. No, I really enjoyed it. But I thought the second half of it wasn't as strong as the first half. And for me, they had like a few things that seemed a bit hand-wavy in the second half. But I understand why they needed to do it. But one thing, I mean, I love Rocky, but one thing was like he was too competent at everything, which was, after a while, it just felt a little strange to me. But
it was necessary to move the plot along.
Yeah.
And who's to say? You don't know Iridians?
Well,
you're a fan? Name 5. Name 5 Iridians.
That was one thing I was wondering about, like, did they ever resolve the question if Rocky is just a regular Iridian, if he's a genius? Because I know Grace was asking that to himself all the time.
Well, Grace is kind of considered a bit of a normie as well. He didn't think he was a genius by any stretch of it. So that's a great question. I like that observation as well.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm being really sassy, and I apologize.
No. I mean, I really enjoyed it, and you will really enjoy the Masha.
So my thing is, I agree. I actually agree with you, Darian. The first half of the book is stronger than the second half of the book.
Yeah.
But if the first half of the book is a 6 out of 5, and the second half of the book's a 4 out of 5, then it's a 5 out of 5 book. Maths! Simple maths!
Yeah, the maths checks out.
The math checks out on that one. Good. Oh, thank you for letting me yell at you for a little bit. Colleen, 5 out of 5, perfectly fit you, as you described it aptly. You said there's no such thing as a perfect book, but this perfectly fit you.
Yeah, I loved this book. It was, I could relate so much to the math and science. In fact, I tried to explain it to my sister and brother-in-law because I was so excited about it. But I started to get bogged down with details and explaining, and I could see their glazing over. So I finally just, kind of tried to condense it into 1 or 2 sentences, gotta save Earth. Has to go to another star system, and my sister said, why couldn't you just say that to start with?
Aww.
But
you're like, because I'm telling you how it personally affected me.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, this was kind of related to one of my favorite parts is when saying how much his scientists are going to love all of this. And Grace says, yeah, until they get to quantum mechanics, then they'll just be annoyed. And that, I mean, even Einstein was annoyed by quantum mechanics.
Yeah.
So
must be quantum mechanics.
Yeah, well, it's because it doesn't fit with the rest of what we know about physics and things. It's like a whole separate world and gets really crazy.
It's like it's out of this world.
Yeah. Well, it works. But the ending of the book, by the time I got to the end of the book, I felt like, yeah, this is a book I didn't want to end because I was loving it so much. But at the same time, I felt like any more could spoil it. I kind of just wanted to imagine what was going on. And,
okay.
I felt like I didn't want to tip the balance, that it was, for me, it was a good place to end.
Okay. Yeah, I like that. I think, I'm a bit the same, like, even though I was disappointed that we didn't get a check-in on what was happening with Earth. This is, at the end of the day, Ryland Grace's story. He was a bit of a coward, and I want to go into that discussion. A bit of a coward in terms of not wanting to go on a suicide mission. And yet he ends up choosing to not go home and to save 2 planets, which is it's the hero's trope, the hero's journey trope. But at the end of the day, like, he chose correctly. And I think he did that through friendship. And that's one of the themes that we have in our book chat doc all the way down the bottom. It's friendship, an interstellar friendship. Grace talks about not having friends on Earth. Did the threat of the apocalypse for Earth cause him to open up and for Rocky to become his friend? That's a great question. I want to get stuck into that, but I've still got 2 more people to get through with their ratings. So we'll put a pin in that for the moment. Catch-22, I think you gave it a 5 out of 5?
I did give it a 5 out of 5. It honestly, like, it took me 3 days to read the book, but it was one of those where when I picked it up and was reading it, I didn't really want to put it down. So I had to kind of force myself to stop reading so I could sleep and eat and do my job. And when that happens, to me, that's the side.
I'm piecing together from your comments. Now, you have to understand that you cannot put a broad stroke over everyone being brilliant with science and maths, because I, for one, am one of the people on this planet that will opt out of that any chance that they can get. But you make it sound like it's easy. So what?
It comes easy to me, I will say that.
I know 18 decimals of pi, which...
Well, there you go. That's more than I know. That's honestly more than I know.
Well, there we go. Look, I have a family where the men in the family are brilliant with mathematics and the women in the family have feelings. So that's how that was split. My favorite story is, my brother was furiously writing on a bit of paper and I was like, what are you doing? And he goes, I'm trying to see how fast a plane has to fly to constantly be flying in daylight, but I have to account for fuel usage. And I was like, I'm going to keep watching Friends. Cool. But that's what he would do for fun. So I understand that maths is fun for some people. How did you turn it into a career?
Okay, well, that's a long story, but it starts with failing a class in high school and then taking the class over again.
That's a hero's journey.
Right. It was one of those where I failed it and I was like, I can pass this class. I hate not succeeding in things. I'm kind of competitive in that way. Anyways, long story short, later I get a bachelor's degree in civil engineering, and now I am working for a company that does a lot of engineering at nuclear power plants.
Whoa. Okay.
So.
Okay. I make content and I talk about books.
No, it's all good. Everybody has to do something. And your job sounds a lot more fun. My job is a lot of sitting in front of a laptop, looking at numbers and straight lines.
Yeah. My dad and one of my brothers are surveyors, and my other brother is a data analyst.
Yeah, I did some surveying, not my cup of tea. I did in college.
I will say though, again, because I feel like I have to make up for an ineptitude that I feel like I'm expressing. When I play D&D, when we are rolling those dice, my simple addition, lightning fast. Pew, pew, pew. 6, a 3, and a 5, 14. Yeah. So there you go. I did get called out in the chat though. Where was it? Someone saying, with all my maths, what was it? Chris, Maude, you passed high school. Can you still calculate the surface area of a sphere? Pi r squared. Radius time, the radius? What's that?
Pi r squared would be diameter. Pi r squared would be diameter. Or I guess it'd be circumference, excuse me. Maybe the circumference
but
of the
you
square.
need to start with the circumference
sphere
to
would
get
be-
the sphere? Am I on the right track?
Yes.
Okay.
You're on the right track.
Okay. Colleen says physics made me approach roller coasters in a whole different light. Physics made me want to quit school. You can't spell physics without
dreaded
sick.
I dreaded physics when I had to take it.
Batteries.
Like going into physics, I was like, I do not want to take this class. And then once I got into physics, it became very interesting and I loved it.
I love perspectives. Last that we have is Avery, who's just dropped a comment saying, I've got an English degree. Hi, Avery.
Hello.
How's your maths going?
Oh, yeah.
I feel you on that one. An English degree, though. Tell me about your degree.
Oh, yeah. I don't know what to say about it. Yeah, I have a degree in English. I studied literature. I work in a library now, so.
How many of our book chat members work in a library? Because Kate does, you do. I think Michelle does. Michelle, do you work in a library in some way? I feel like, Michelle, I've just, ever since we covered Name of the Wind, I'm like, you're in the archives. I've always just like put you straight in the archives in my world. The Bulb Dim says, may I interest you in a course in differential equations? Absolutely fucking not. It's, you know, the left and right side of the brains are very interesting, and I envy people that can dip into both sequentially. I am very much right-brained. I am creative only. I don't like the business side of things, which is why I have a Gory. She loves numbers and analytics and all that kind of stuff. And I'm like, cool, that's now your problem. Oh, you're a project manager, but your entire personality is thirst for knowledge. Yeah, isn't that weird? I kind of just, in my brain, you work in the archives of life. Chris has got a general arts and journalism degree. Math was never really my thing. That and the learning disorder. That can do it. But learning disorders are really interesting because, again, it can sort of almost diminish one part of the brain and accelerate another part of the brain. So my eldest brother, who was calculating the speed and time a plane has to be soaring to fly in constant daylight, was doing matrix maths at 15, but never really developed English past a 13-year-old's language. So you're just, you know, you're a genius at one. It's like you stick to your lane and you get really good and fast in your lane. Gaia used to work in the IT section of a library, but my brother worked in the rare books / special collections. Do they have the white gloves, that part? Bulb Dim says it was the only course in college that I sold the book before the exam. It was not good. Took me a second. You sold the book before you even did the exam. Amazing. Fantastic. I am Mix says, I'm going to be an English / history teacher. English courses that are filled with terrible books. Fantastic. What kind of books are we doing for the curriculum? Curriculum's one of my favorite words, though. Hello? Says Da Vinci. Hello? Alvac says, it's just the radius of Earth. Add flying altitude and divided by 24 hours. Oh my God. See? My brother is in good company. Oh, that's a great pun, Nox. Great pun. Good story, Jimmy. Latitude is a factor, as is the season of the year. Oh my gosh. The variables, which brings me back on track about the second half of the book. The variables, the fact that shit goes down. Am I alone in thinking that the first half was a little bit too smooth sailing? I kind of split it up into 3 acts because this is getting turned into a movie. So if we're in the document, there is a theme here. The act breakdown, I've called it. Oh, Vaidin's gifted a sub to Alvac. Thank you so much. That's really sweet. Oh, Cash 22. Yep, got it. I once converted the speed of the Millennium Falcon to miles per hour. How fast was he going? Crunch those numbers. Colleen says I actually specialized in earth science. I used to volunteer on paleontological digs and fossil preparation. That just reminds me of Sam Neill, aka Dr. Alan, Dr. Ellie Sattler, and Dr. Alan. Chat? Jurassic Park. Catch 22, you're reading the book. What's his name? Dr. Alan
Grant. Alan Grant. Alan Grant.
Because he gets a grant. He gets the grant. Oh, thank you,
sorry, I
Oddball
had to look it
Vagabond.
up.
Thank you, Oddball. First ever chat he makes in the comment. I'm assuming your gender, I apologize. The first comment they make in the chat is giving the answer. I like that. With the whole claw thing. Anyway, I digress. I'm talking about the acts, the breakdown. This book is being turned into a movie. Ryan Gosling is cast as Dr. Ryland Grace. The act breakdown is, because we read it in halves, but now we have to split into thirds. Act 1, unveiling the truth. We have Dr. Ryland Grace waking up in this lab. He's been in a coma. He has no memories, including his own name. So the more that his memories unfold through the exploration of where he's at, using things like, oh, I think in metric, or I think in this measurement system. Oh, I understand what every single item on this science table is, therefore I must be science man. And then the memories unlocking more information where we bring back in present day. So first act is unveiling the truth. The second act is the problem solving. We are hit with the problem. The sun is dying. The sun's energy is being taken by something called astrophage, a parasitic kind of... No, I gotta stop saying that. It's more of like an organism that is feeding off the sun's energy. And then they're breeding and spreading and killing rapidly. And formulating the solution and the team, that portion, very, very smooth sailing. Now, we kind of compared this a little bit to Don't Look Up, the Netflix movie, which was another comet coming down, end of the earth could ensue. How do we fix this? And it is satirically met with a series of errors, including monetizing the end of the world. I was talking to a friend about Project Hail Mary, and they said the most unbelievable part of this book isn't astrophage, isn't Rocky. It's the fact that the United Nations worked together. Even initially, even though Eva Strat says it's all going to go to shit, initially they all combined resources and astronauts and information to get to this page. Avery, you said the same thing. Chime on in. The most unbelievable part is the United Nations working together.
Yeah, just like from what we've seen over the past 3 years with COVID, like even then all the countries couldn't agree on how to handle the situation. And in a situation like that, like I just feel like everybody would argue and the arguing would take longer than the actual solution. So yeah, I agree that that is the most unbelievable part of this book.
Yeah, especially when we've seen it's like the end of the world. Is it though? That doesn't fit our narrative. It's like, because we have seen evidence during a fucking pandemic of people not trusting or believing in the science. But I guess it's like, are you a leader of a nation because you are understanding and prioritizing science? Fatal Flower says the politics will destroy the scientific progress. Do you want to elaborate on that one?
I mean, essentially what I see happening with the pandemic, where you've got science that is saying one side, and then, from a government standpoint, it doesn't quite seem like they are matching up all of the time. And there's a lot of miscommunication and confusion to the rest of the population. And then you bring that between different countries. There's a lot of different stuff going on. I think that it's completely unrealistic of what happened in the book of having everybody in the world actually come together and work together and bring in their best people. I don't see that happening at all.
It was my favorite part of the book.
It was very nice in these times to like actually see something positive and something working out. I just don't think it's realistic.
It might not, which is why, I mean, maybe it's sci-fi fantasy, because that is an absolute fantasy for United Nations to work together like that. Isaac, you want to chime in on that?
So I think it's part of the fact that they gave all the power to Strat.
Yep.
Because otherwise, if it was like a collective of people or a joint chiefs from somewhere, it'll just be an ego battle, I think.
And the amount of meetings that could have been an email that needed to be an executive quick decision. Yeah, exactly.
So
time's not of the essence, and you needed someone.
It's a bit unrealistic.
Does Earth have a Strat? Do you believe? Because the pandemic was supposed to have a Fauci.
Yeah, but
does Earth have a Strat?
There has to be someone that's like that in the scientific community, I think.
But would they be delegated that kind of power, realistically?
No, never. It'll stay with politics.
Never.
But this is something, and because I don't really like politics either way, and I like that Andy does this a lot in his books. I don't want to say why specifically, because we're gonna read the other book. So I kind of like that because I don't like politics. I don't want to read about politics. So I prefer that everything stays within between scientists and with the science and just what we're present the problem, present the solution, and what process are we going to use to get there. That's what I enjoyed the most. But yeah, it's unrealistic completely. So I think definitely falls into sci-fi fantasy.
And that's the saddest fucking part about the book, really.
Yeah.
Because it wouldn't go like this, and should shit hit the fan. I mean, those that I used in inverted commas when talking about Don't Look Up as a satire, because it's not, it's barely satirical. It's more social commentary. Oh, I wish, I mean, in no way am I kind of advocating for a tyrannical kind of leadership, but if there was a person, like I fell in love with Strat as a character, someone that had to make incredibly harsh and tough decisions, someone that, I mean, we're trying to talk about her chaotic alliance. What is it? I've forgotten the word already. Sorry. Isaac, do you know it? Catch-22 in D&D. You have your alignment. We were trying to assess Strat's alignment. And I was more on the understanding that she was like lawful neutral, because lawful evil is standing by the rules, no matter the consequence on the person. And then lawful good is doing what you think is best. That was a head scratcher, that one. Who's chiming in?
I have another way to describe Strat.
Yes.
She's a blunt instrument. She just does her way through, getting to her goal. And I love that she's able to justify it so cleanly. It's like, I'm going to go to jail for all of this, but at least humanity will be saved.
What is it? The saying that you fall on your sword. It's like, I know exactly what I'm doing. I know the consequence. It has to be done. It has to be done.
And she did it. She was a blunt instrument. She was just like, let's cut through all the bullshit and get to where we need to be.
So that begs the question, do you agree with Strat's antics? Because it is the big twist here, is that she knew that Ryland Grace was not volunteering himself for the expedition, but she had groomed him, actually groomed him as a participant. He didn't even realize he was her number 2. Every astronaut goes, yeah, you're second in command on this whole project.
Yeah. If I may.
Yes?
I I was gonna say I think Strat is more chaotic good. I mean, her whole thing is consequences be damned. I'm gonna do what's best for the species, which I feel is more chaotic.
Yeah, the good is the objective, and that whatever means necessary.
The methods are chaotic.
The chaotic.
I mean, let's nuke Antarctica. Let's,
Yeah.
So, and I think there are absolutely people like that on Earth. I don't think they'd ever be given the amount of power that she was given.
No, it was the absolute power piece. Yeah. And like, I actually started thinking, this woman, there's the amount of decision-making, information handling, you name it, that she had to do alone with this kind of time crunch and the way things were moving. This woman would not be able to sleep. And the fact that she didn't have like an assistant or a second in command, she definitely did groom Ryland Grace to be that person. The fact that he didn't know it, this is a smart man. And I have this in this, the notes here. I put a little thought into it in my second listen and I was like, something didn't really make sense, but I'm sure as a group discussion, we'll get to the bottom of it. This is a man who goes giddy over science. He's in NASA's Neutral Buoyancy Lab at Johnson Space Center, and he cannot contain his excitement. He begged to be back on the astrophage study. When he was taken out of it, he was the first person because he was dispensable. Why is he dispensable? Because he's not the most brilliant-brained person. Why is he a good candidate for this mission? Because he doesn't have a family. He doesn't have a wife and kids. He has volunteered himself to get back on the astrophage studies. He loves the exploration. He loves the part of, like, even in space, he has to pinch himself that he's there without the information that he wasn't willing. But we never really learn, or do we? Help me out. Why he doesn't want to be on this mission. Is it because he doesn't think he's intellectually competent? Is it because he's afraid to die? Is it because he feels like he's got more to live for? Is it because he wants to continue teaching? I think a blaringly obvious thing to me in the second listen is a subconscious bias on what's important. And when you look at other family movies, or movies where there is a prominent woman in it, usually, family comes up. Independence Day, Will Smith has a girlfriend and a kid. President's married. The scientist has a girlfriend. Like, there's a lot kind of going on with what is worth living for. And it's always family. But when you look at Ryland Grace, you never ever have the point of view of, I wanted to settle down and start my own family. I wanted kids of my own. You don't ever hear about Yao or I have their names. Where are they? Ilyukna. The way that it's written is, I have to read it phonetically. Du Bois, I'm guessing, and Shapiro don't have kids because they start a relationship being astronauts. So it sounded like not having any family ties made you an ideal candidate. So for that, all the things the enthusiasm, no ties to Earth, really. I know that J Bunt Rock, you're saying, but the kids want somebody, think of the children. For me, it didn't make sense why he wasn't willing to risk his life knowing this. So I kind of want to open up that discussion. Does anyone have a theory on why Dr. Ryland Grace was so adamant to not go on this mission as an astronaut when all the other evidence are based on this? We've already seen him volunteer for research and to understand astrophage, and he comes back because he wants his kids, his students, to have a chance. So it just didn't make absolute sense to me. A Lurking Frog says, I think it was partly because he didn't have a choice. He wasn't asked to save the planet. But my argument is that all the evidence that's presented about his character means that he would be jumping at the bit, jumping at the chance to be in this. Who's got something?
Sure.
Vaidin, you're up. And then Colleen, and then Catch-22, and then Darian. We got unmute, so I'm going to delegate. Vaidin, what you got?
So the book does explain that he has issues with basically being a coward, but I think he also just has self-esteem issues in general. Like he always talks about like how he's essentially not good enough to be doing things in general. Like, you know, he shouldn't be doing this, he shouldn't be involved with this, and Strat always has to like kind of push him to actually get him to do things he can do.
Yes.
And
okay.
I don't think he believes he can be a hero. Essentially, I don't think he thinks that he's just a good enough candidate. Essentially, so he just like the last person.
He doubts himself. Okay.
Yeah, he's last resort.
I get that because there are a couple of times where Strat's like, "You idiot, you're in this room because you deserve to be in this room," and he's questioning himself. So those layers of self-doubt have been made. Play the Board says, I think he was just afraid. He gave up researching after not being taken seriously. I guess that had an everlasting effect. Oh, when I talked earlier about retiring from skipping because I was too tall. I get it. He's just a bit of a pushover, not the kind to stand up and take risks. Avery, we'll go to you as well. Who else had something to say on this? I know that Colleen, you unmuted. Did you have something?
Yeah, I think one of the things, when he was working in the lab, he knew there was a possibility that it could explode, that he could die, and that he was expendable. But he was partly hooked by his discoveries, but there was a risk, but it wasn't guaranteed. I think that's a lot different than being told, hey, you're going on a mission and you're going to die. He'd already had to go through and talk to some of the crew members about how they wanted to die. Maybe if he'd had more time to process it, but that's kind of a terrifying thought. It's a lot different than saying, oh, you know, there's a 50-50 chance, or, this is a one-way mission, you're going to die.
You know what? I agree with that, where it's like he has displayed self-doubt a lot. By the way, that scene in the first half of the book was amazing. So wait, you're trying to tell me that I'm in here so that no one else dies and like I am dispensable? I'm paraphrasing. I hate quoting. And she's like, no, it's not like that. And he goes, how is it not like that? Okay, it is exactly like that. Those moments. But yeah, he had the information that he was dispensable, indispensable. So that's being drilled back into him. Being told the entire future of the planet rests on your shoulders and you need to be an astronaut, that I understand the gravity pun of the situation. Because it's like, but I'm not an astronaut. It's like, well, you're going to have to be. I understand that sort of like that kind of pressure, it just didn't come across like that 100% to me. Michelle says, Grace's fear response is flight. Oh, I love that pun as well. Where's my pun count, by the way? I'm firing on all cylinders here. That's another pun. Thank you, KP Dubs. He's always willing to rationalize his actions using thin reasoning. He will always cocoon himself in a safe place with his kids, with his single life. Arguably, the Project Hail Mary lab is the safest place in the planet. I love that. His fear response is flight. Lisa says, I agree. I felt like it was a combination of fear and self-doubt. Chris again says he didn't even understand that people saw him as the second in command of the project. I think he had a healthy dose of naivety as well. He was a little naive about a lot of things. Naive about his own potential, naive about his place in the hierarchy. Pianki says, I agree exactly with Colleen. Maybe death versus certain death in about 4 months of conscious time. KP Dub says, I've thought a lot about would I volunteer? And if so, why? And if I had not originally volunteered, what would make me then later choose the suicide mission to save Rocky? KP Dubs, how'd you get to the bottom of that? Did you get to the bottom of that? Where are you at with it?
In my own life, I don't specifically have a fear of dying so much as having a fear of dying and just being completely forgotten from the world forever.
Oh,
so
I don't think I'll forget you.
I'm on the internet. I'm there somewhere now. But like, I don't have any kids, so for me, I would probably do what I could to be remembered forever. So I would have gone on the mission. The second part, once he's been on the ship and he didn't know that he was coerced to do it, he's already started to deal with the fact that he's on a suicide mission several times. When he's heading home and has to suddenly decide to go after Rocky, he's kind of already faced the fact that he was on a suicide mission. It's not that big a deal anymore. So he sends off the Beatles to Earth and he goes after Rocky.
Yeah, I like that. I also like the fact that 3/4 of this book, he thought it was his own choice. And
Yes.
he really kind of resided with the fact that it's a suicide mission. He chose to not tell Rocky straight away that it was a suicide mission. He didn't want to kind of like add to unnecessary heartache in that particular way. But then, yeah, you're right. He does unlock the memory that he was drugged and sedated and it wasn't his choice to be in this. And I think that he finally got, with all that information and a lived experience, he was able to make that choice on his own, on his terms. But that's a great question. If you're in Dr. Ryland Grace's shoes, would you go on the mission? And we're also going to ask the other question. If you were on Erid and you needed to eat meat, their scientific response was to cultivate and grow the human enzyme, the human, what's that word? What's that science word? Biome, the human DNA makeup, proteins. They're basically using human proteins to grow lab meat, human meat. Isaac, help me out. Me science good.
I will 100% eat it.
You would eat a me burger, and we're calling it a me burger because it is huge. Like literally, a portion of you is grown in a lab, and they're going to continue growing that meat so that they can cook your meat that they have made from you in a burger, so that you have sustainable proteins in your body and can live off a food that won't harm you. But it is essentially self-cannibalism. Isaac, you would do it, no questions asked.
100%.
I would too.
I kind of want to do it.
Do you want to? This is the thing. The better question is, do you want to live? Do you want to survive?
Of course.
If you cook human meat and it tastes good, I will just get that memory out and be like, as long as it tastes good.
Yeah, that's something that I kind of want to try as well.
Okay, you know what? You just took it a little bit in a sub direction that we didn't have to go in. We're not talking.
Yeah, I know. But would I volunteer for a mission like that?
We're talking about being on a space planet that has no digestible or healthy food because all the food will kill you because it has too much metals in it. But you just threw in I'd just like to know. Rachel fucking Hine did this when we were talking about Hannibal. And she's like, the meat kind of looked good. I know it was from a person, but it kind of looked good. And she never lived it down. And now you have joined that sanctum of you want to just eat, you want to eat people.
I want to try. I'm not saying that I want to eat like an entire person, but I want to.
This is cannibalism, and you are on the internet. Vaidin, don't you start! Oh my god! This chat! Is everyone just gonna eat people? Oh my god, is everyone gonna... Is it... Isaac, is it to further the human race? Is it to live, or is it just curiosity?
All three.
Do you remember the article? Do you remember that weird fucking article where someone put in Craigslist, I would like to eat someone. Who would like to volunteer? And this person's like, I'll do it. I'll be eaten. Is this how it starts? Is this how it starts? I don't want it to start because it was me.
I'm just glad Craigslist is no longer allowed in Costa Rica.
Oh my god. Oh my god.
There's a great episode about this subject from a British show called The IT Crowd.
I know the IT crowd. Have you tried turning it off and on again? Yeah, I know the IT crowd. But when the fuck did I talk about eating each other?
There was an episode about it. They responded to an ad, and he misunderstood the ad. The ad was because someone wanted to eat someone, and he didn't. And he kind of volunteered for it without realizing what it was.
Bianchi, voice of reason, could you please unmute and relay your message?
There's a difference between eating cloned me burgers versus just eating some random person.
One is for survival, and it's volunteer. I guess volunteering is, we're talking about, volunteering is not the crucial element. Obviously.
It's also not a living person. You're not eating some person. You're just eating cloned tissues.
You are
that happen to be cloned from yourself.
The reading chat is going off with Hannibal memes and gifs right now. If you are giving a part of yourself to science to grow, to maintain your life, yes. Isaac, it probably tastes like chicken. Maybe crocodile. I don't know. What would we taste? I don't want to know. I don't want to know.
Crocodile toast tastes kind of weird.
What? Did you just say?
Crocodile? Jesus.
Crocodile.
No.
Crocodile tastes weird.
Yeah, it does.
But were you starving?
No. It was an option.
Okay. But you know what? Again, humans in the food chain have decided to try and eat any digestible meat from an animal that exists under in the ecosystem. That is not the problem. I think the differentiating factor here is that, like KP Dub said, I would not eat anyone else. I'm just recycling my own protein. My body already does it every day. Michelle is telling me, Maude, it's 3D printed protein in the shape of a hamburger. There's no cultivation of livestock here. That is true. That is true. It's not even, there's no slaughter. No one's dying to be eaten. Pun. Pianki's eaten alligator. Sort of tastes like chicken, but a bit tougher. Okay. If someone was like, hey, I think my purpose is to offer my body to be eaten, is that an offer that is too good to be true, Isaac?
It will definitely be suspicious.
Okay, thank you. I needed to hear that.
I'm sensing a follow-up.
No, I needed to hear that. We're talking about, if you're just joining us.
My membership is being cancelled, bro.
If you're just joining us, we're talking about this book by Andy Weir called Project Hail Mary, and the conversation has gone to cannibalism. Would you do it for survival or for fun? Let us know in the comments. We've got a lot more to talk about. We've only got half an hour to do it, so let's talk about the next part. Let's talk about the cultural differences. The fact that we are learning about an alien species. How did we like this interaction? Was Rocky or the Erids a believable alien species? Oh my god. You know what? No, thank you for sharing. Thank you. Who wants an Adam sausage? I am selling them starting today, says Adam Vision. The phrasing, I agree, Dragon Ghost. The phrasing was not great on that. Vaidin says Rocky was awesome, perhaps the best part of the book from me. I want to talk about the fact that there are cultural differences. There was informational differences. There were language differences. There were biological differences. I'm putting all that on the table. Who wants to eat that? Unmute, discuss. I've run out of wine. Who wants to talk about the differences between the humans and the Erids? Anyone? Vaidin, you're up.
Sure. All right. Yeah, there were so many differences between the species, and I loved it. Yes. Like, one thing is I really enjoyed was usually in most space or sci-fi stuff in general, like humans are like kind of like not really high up on the list of like science, but in this book, you know, they're actually much better scientifically than the Eridians. So that was a fun change of pace.
In some ways. I love the fact that Erids have a different type of metal that is incredibly strong and interchangeable, xenonite. So Erids are like, we have xenonite. And then he's like, yeah, we have advanced science. So I love that, like, there was a bit of a yin and a yang there. Again, we're talking to the biologist and the engineer. So it complements the fact, you know, that sort of breakdown where the engineer has the tangible sort of physics side of things, the building, the fixing, and then Ryland's like, let me tell you a little thing about space-time relativity. So I like that as well. We start talking not only about the differences in their scientific evolution. I mean, it explains the fact that Rocky's entire crew died because of radiation, which he didn't even know what radiation was. So that was a sad learning experience.
Yeah, and like Rock Vandal mentioned about eating, like the cultural differences, like humans eat food for not just for, you know, nutrition, but also for pleasure, basically, and they don't. To them, it's like eating is like a thing to kind of like it's something to hide. You don't look at someone eating. You know, you keep it.
It's like charging your phone, but if your phone shat as well.
Yes, exactly. And sleeping was the opposite. Sleeping is a communal thing. You watch someone sleep. It's you need someone to be there with you to, you know, keep you safe.
And I kind of loved Ryland Grace's like his science brain going, like, he's starting to deduce particular things. Oh, as a grouped species, is this something that they realized that they had to do, and that's how they became more advanced, because they almost relinquished power to another person while they slept at their most vulnerable. I do think it was funny, like, it was really kind of mentioned quite a few times where it was like, you watch. I sleep, you watch. I'm sleeping, you watch. And he's like, I'm good, man. And he's like, no, you watch. I'm sleeping, so therefore. And they are making these assumptions about specific cultural beliefs that are only unique to them, but it's the assumption. And I think that Earth as a species, you know, with unique cultures all around the world, there are assumptions that are made with that as well. But I like that it wasn't initially kind of like discussed. It was just primitively the assumption, I'm going to sleep, so you will watch. And he's like, all right, dude. And then you kind of hear more and more, well, it's my sleep time, so, or if you're going to sleep, I'll watch. And he's like, that's kind of weird, dude. I don't know if I don't want you to. He goes, no, I'll watch. As like I'm showing you respect and I'm helping you. In saying that, did Rocky make all of the effort to introduce himself to an alien species because of his primitive cultural nature of needing someone to watch him sleep? So if that wasn't part of his cultural genetic makeup, would he be less inclined to seek help because he was only on his own?
It's possible, yeah, because like I said, on his ship, everyone died, so he had no one to watch him anymore, so he was lonely. So
it wasn't even lonely, it was survival.
It was survival as well, that's true.
Because they shut down they sleep less, but for longer. And so that's when they're at their most vulnerable. I do think it was interesting, like with the eating thing as well. We're hearing about Ryland Grace's relationship with food. I was on coma slurry, but now that I'm awake, I get exciting food. Holy shit, this mush is delicious. Oh my gosh, now I'm on solids. Is this a burrito? Oh, I love it. And hearing his relationship with food, and then again, projecting the assumption that food has that same integrity. We share a meal. It brings us together. We enjoy the food that we eat. And then him being really shameful. Like it's a point of shame where it's like, please don't watch me eat. So it's like, again, it's like that same thing. Yes, Isaac, Rocky was already alone for 46 years. 40, 46, 45, 40 something years before he even established contact. And it's like he was alone for almost for longer, for around the same time that Ryland had been alive. And we spoke last week about the effects of isolation and how that's one of the worst things. And I think that another question that I have, even though we're still talking about the cultural and scientific differences, is if you had to go back to Earth, you had the pleasure of food removed from you because you would have been reduced to coma slush. Could you survive 4 years in isolation traveling back home. I don't think I could. I've realized that I can spend 2 weeks in bed with COVID before I start going a little bit crazy. 2 weeks in bed. And I have a phone where I can call and text people, videos where I can check in. I have entertainment, shows that I can watch, books that I can read. I have a very unique sense of escapism. True Scorn is like, yes, I could. Imagine where you were 4 years ago. 4 years ago. 2018. Beginning of 2018. You've just had New Year's, 2017 into 18 to now. That entire time, you had 0 human interaction. You have 0. Oh, you have the entire internet at your disposal, but you are in a very small, what, like a 700 square foot, 800 square foot. Yeah, but how many times could you play a game? Do you realistically think for 4 years you could do it? And there is no wrong answer. If you truly believe it, fantastic. No way to communicate. You have no one to talk to at all. You and your own company with food slush that you had to ration out. Michelle
I could
said,
absolutely survive 4 years, but not awake.
no, I'm the same. Coma me up. I want to sleep through it. I want to sleep through it. I do not want to even know that time existed. I want hands to come out of a wall and rotate me every now and then. Yeah. Okay. Catch-22, we're on the same page. Vaidin says, I think I could because there's a million things that I'd do in that time, and you would get through all of them in 5 months. Michelle says, I'm showing my big archive energy here, but I was drooling over the thought that Grace had all digital media on his hard drive. Again, I saw that as maybe a couple of weeks before I was like, I cannot watch another thing. I just need different brain stimulus, like, and I need human interaction, touch, awareness. Yeah, I'd probably risk it. You know what? I'd probably try it for the first 6 months, and I'd get through all the food, and then I'd probably last another 3 or 4 weeks on coma slush before I'd be like, you know what? If it works, it works. If it doesn't, I tried. Chris said he had all the world media on the ship. I could do 4 years. Thierry says, I think I'd be okay. COVID didn't change all that much in my daily routine. KP Dub says, with the entire Library of Congress on your ship, Maude, every book ever. To only read though. I mean, when I was in COVID, I was listening to a book for like 6-7 hours a day, but I needed breaks. Pianki says, I imagine just about everyone here who thinks that they could survive 4 years in 100% isolation in a tiny apartment is lying to themselves. I have to agree with you. Kakahu, what would you do? I don't have a pet.
I couldn't do it. Even with all the games, all the books, all the movies, everything, you know, you think, yeah, maybe a couple months, but even those of us who are the most introverted, who think, you know, don't want to be around people, we're still getting a little bit of interaction. You're getting interaction on the internet. When texting people, you can walk outside and see plants.
I go for an hour walk every day. I know. And I think, you know, we all actually got a taste of it. This is the thing. We got a taste of it with isolation. A lot of the world shut down for a minimum of 4 weeks at a time. But like 4 weeks where we were not really allowed to leave our house. We weren't allowed to go to work. We had to stay indoors. And collectively, I feel like the world just went a lot stir crazy. Fuck, man. There are people comparing it to the Holocaust, which is the dumbest thing ever. But, you know, there's a saying where if you've experienced zero oppression your entire life and you face slight oppression, it feels like the worst thing in the world. Hash Bandicoot says, hey, from New Zealand, Maude. Hey, you know a little bit about isolation. Australia and New Zealand did a very good job of locking it down. I didn't mean to cut you off, Kakahu, if you had more to say on the matter.
like what people have gone through thanks to COVID, that kind of isolation is still not even close to the same scale as being completely cut off from every form of communication.
And I think that's why Rocky wasn't hostile. I think it's why they needed each other. I actually can't believe they didn't get in more fights. I think that they were so grateful. I mean, Rocky was 40 plus years in isolation. Ryland had experienced a couple of weeks, so they're kind of on par. I think they really needed each other, not only because of their agenda, because of the quest, the mission to save each respective world, but they needed the company. They needed the interaction. They saved each other, which is why further down the line, they both physically saved each other. Rocky hurt himself, put himself in harm's way to save Grace. Grace chose to never go back to Earth so that he could save his planet, but also chose to spend time on that planet because the closest person in his life in that stage was an alien. I get it. I want to read some more of these answers here. Toaster Poster says, I don't think I could make it. I'm here on Twitch because I don't want to feel alone. I hear you, bud. Clever Girl says, I am way too much of an extrovert. I thrive on social interaction, which is why you're a staple in our community. Thierry says 4 years. I think if you have Witcher 3 and Skyrim to play with, I'd be okay. I'm telling you, I clocked Witcher so fucking fast when lockdown started. Oh, and then it was done. Who's chatting to me? Darian? Sup?
One thing I was gonna ask about Rocky, he was alone for 40 years, but he's like 300 years old, so I just wanted to know how much time he perceived, like in the sense, like, was that a long amount of time or like a short amount of time for him to be alone? Obviously it's horrible. One of the other things was, I love the report that they got where Grace taught him sarcasm and they were using it at each other. So that was like the cultural exchange where they're actually able to make jokes and snap at each other and rib each other.
Humor. Yeah, I agree. I'm noticing in the reading chat in Discord, both Darian, you and Isaac were asking if we ever learned about why the other two astronauts died. So when Grace comes to light, he realizes his two companions, the crewmates of the Project Hail Mary, have died through the coma process. Yao and I need to read it. Ilyukna. They both pass away and he has memories of them. From my understanding, and if anyone else has another idea, please chat or open up comms. Open up comms. I like saying like, oh, on a ship. That's cool. Anyway, I was led to believe that there was just not enough studies done. This was a company in Thailand where they wanted to put a lot of research into induced comas, especially for cancer patients, where it's like instead of fighting and going through radiation and chemotherapy, you are put into a coma so that you can go through the basis of it and don't have to live through the hell. And a couple of things came from it, and that was not enough people have this coma genetic gene. The studies that were done, it was 1 in 7,000 people. And so because of that, they couldn't fund the research for it to be a viable or sustainable company because not enough people could use the facilities. So they pulled research. So the second thing we learned was that there just was not enough time or money to develop a flawless system in this unique case, which is a self-induced coma, 4 years instead of about 3 months. The DNA makeup, 1 in 7,000 having the viable genetics to even undergo the process. So I think that this was a trial and error, and this is what kind of sucked. I know that they needed their backup team, but it's like I feel like they had a 1 in 3 survival chance of even lasting the 4 years. So I mean, 2 of the scientists died in the research process, Du Bois and Shapiro, who tried to do a study, were given the wrong amount of astrophage, blew themselves up, which is why Grace had to go on the mission in the first place. But I feel like if you did not have enough time to do 2 missions, I would say you have your team A and your team B, because the biggest variable is surviving getting there. I would have put them all up in the ship, knowing that they couldn't come back down for 16 years anyway, and in that time you get your team B ready to go and trained up. KP Dub says, wasn't it described as a gene that increased your chance of survival? There were never any guarantees. Absolutely. It only increased your chance of survival. Yeah, 4 years is such a long time, especially, and it wasn't AI technology. They said it wasn't AI. They didn't even have the means for that. It had to be programmed. So they had to go through every scenario in which a computer could keep comatose bodies alive. So I think that that's what it was. I think they kind of described in the scene with the woman who worked for the company that it was super early. It was too green to do, but the options were have 3 people together for 4 years, and studies show that one of them would try to kill the other one within a year, or put them in the coma. And there was that scene where Strat was drinking heavily gin, pouring herself a lot of gin, trying to make this decision, this exact decision. Do I risk the chance that they might kill each other because of the time, or do I risk the fact that they might not survive the coma process? And it was Grace who told her what to do, because you already know the answer. You do the science. Nick says, we just assumed that they died from the coma. I was thinking that we were going to find out that the robot nurse killed them because it was the only way for Ryland and the mission to survive. Holy shit, I did not get that from it. Oof. But imagine that hanging over your head when you're reading this. It would have given us another reason that they died and another layer of guilt for Ryland. Oh my gosh. Sorry, who did I cut off? Yes, catch me too.
I was just going to say...
sorry, Jimmy.
Go ahead, Sprinkle.
You can go first, Catch. I'll go after.
I was just going to say, kind of getting into Act 3 part, considering how fast and loose they were playing with the science and the engineering, it's actually kind of shocking that they only the 2 astronauts died. Like, more didn't go wrong.
Agree.
There's just something I kind of was like, they're just playing, to heck with the rules, let's just make it go and see what happens. So it's a shock that the ship A got there in the first place and didn't fall apart, and then the fact that at least one of them survived long enough to find a solution is shocking.
Agree. Science is variables. Yes, Jimmy.
So when I was in college, I took a flying class, and they said if you do really good at this, you can become a pilot. Mm-hmm. Now, I was terrible at it. Like I knew about the Bernoulli's principle and all this other stuff, that they were taught. And like he was saying about, like, when you go into space, right? Space is a whole different type of beast when you're in space, because you have on the Earth, right? You have gravity pulling you in equal and opposite directions, therefore holding you in place, right? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. But when you're going in space, it's just like a whole milieu of stuff. Again, not a scientist, but point being is that, because of the, I don't know if this was like their first attempt on trying to go to this place or whatnot, but you would think that, given like in a controlled environment like space camp, they would learn more. You know what I mean? And they would have had this diagnosis. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I feel like in this situation they just did not. They needed time, and it was one thing they didn't have. And I'm looking at Fatal Flowers' comments saying it could have been an untested drug interaction with the sedative or retrograde amnesia drug that they gave to Grace. There would not have been enough time to test those drugs against the induced coma process prior to the mission. That's actually a really, really interesting point, Fatal Flower. Do you want to jump on and talk about this theory? That maybe the only reason that Grace survived was because he did have amnesia through the coma process. Whoa.
Yeah, I mean, that would be the one thing that they would not have tested those ahead of time in that coma process. And with how much testing they were doing on absolutely every single element of the mission, to just throw some drugs into somebody before they go through this big, crazy process that they already know kills people off pretty easily. It seemed kind of strange. And that is the one thing that happened to him that did not happen to those other two astronauts that were on the mission. So
that's actually the start of a really good case study, like a really good sort of scientific study where it's like, is that the reason? I know that there was a comment that was made where it was like, was this done on purpose to kind of like ramp up and motivate Ryland and add to it? Nick was saying this in the reading chat, saying we only assumed that they died from the coma. What if the other two were purposely killed so that it all rested on Ryland? But then Colleen makes a astute observation again, saying, I think that they were hoping for all the scientists to survive because they were specialists in different fields. Grace would not have succeeded without Rocky, which is why I think that they should have sent all of them up. But maybe they didn't have enough beds. Maybe the robotic arms could only cater for 3 people at a time. This is the thing, when we deal with science, you need to test, and test again. You triple check, like I'm talking from experience, but you triple check things before it is sort of like concrete, evidential based science. Yes, Catch, is there another name that we can call you, or do you like Catch?
You can call me Tim if you absolutely feel like it.
Tim!
There are some who call me Tim.
I pieced it together with Patreon now. Hi, Tim. I know your last name as well.
Yeah. Uh-oh. I was going to say, I think they only sent 3 astronauts because they were limited to weight based on the amount of phage they could come up with for thrust.
Yes, it had to
like
be
there was
small.
a lot of math involved that they didn't talk about, but I think they were weight restrictions based on amount of fuel they had.
This is how big the ship is. It's tiny. It's baby. They couldn't even have 6 people. 3 times the beds, 3 times the food, 3 times the people, adds even more fuel as well. You make a great point, KP Dubs. Jeff 2.0 says it seems like they were at least partially limited by the amount of astrophage that they could create in time as well. There it is. Oh, all great. I feel like we're a bunch of scientists at this stage. How wonderful. We have 6 minutes to go. Is there a question that we haven't answered? Is there something that we haven't touched upon? I'm looking at the themes that we've said here, which is friendship, cowardice versus bravery. Catch 2.0 saying, coming from a civil engineer, I really appreciated how accurate and correct the math and science were in the book. Also, the raw engineering that it takes to takes place to find a solution and then apply it. Chef's kiss. I talked about the fact that I didn't quite believe why Ryland Grace didn't want to be a hero. Can we fan cast, please? Yes, that's what we can do. Darian.
Oh, this wasn't a fan cast, but I just imagined what the Earth would be like while Grace is on his mission. And it straight up would be a Mad Max type of world.
Australia and New Zealand are fucking done. They're islands. They're cut off. They're starved. They're dead. I understand that.
Yeah, but definitely Ryland Grace would have returned to a Mad Max type planet.
What's happening with your hometown? Where do you think it's going to go?
Oh, well, I live on an island, so
yeah, you're done. You're done.
We'll be screwed.
Yeah, well, we're eating fish for the rest of our lives until we fish the oceans out, and then we're dead. We're dead. Okay, cool. I like that, though. Theories on what would happen during Earth. I think China and Russia and America are the more dominant. I think America is going to sacrifice its surrounding peoples. I think it's going to cut Canada off and let them freeze to death. I think they're going to cut Mexico off because America's just like that. Am I allowed to say that? Thank you for letting me live here. My front door gets barged down by people with guns. I think, you know, the biggest populations, who's got the biggest military? Oh, Alan Tiddiker's Rocky is the only acceptable answer. I love that. Anyone else got predictions on how the world's going to destroy itself when we have to start, when half the population gets killed?
We're going for the whole concept of global cooling, ice age. That means everyone's going to want to move toward the equator. So the USA is not just going to stay put. They're going to invade into Central America.
Oh,
Because
cool.
they're going to want that land.
Yeah.
That's where everywhere, all the northern countries, Russia is going to invade the heck out of the China or the Middle East, probably the Middle East.
Oh, yep. You're right. Yeah, Russia won't be able to survive.
Parts of Africa, anywhere that you can grow stuff in a cooler climate, that's where people are going to go.
Yeah. Do you support or deny our theory that if you're on an island, your days are numbered?
Depends on what kind of island, what the elevation is like on the island. If you're for sea level rising,
Let's just
there's
say
probably
hypothetically
plenty of islands, right?
Australia.
Like Australia is probably fine, assuming the weather stays decent enough in parts of it for enough crops to be grown.
Terry's doing his casting in the Discord. Let's have a look at some of the other ones. Fitz from Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. as Dr. Grace, says Chris. Adele as Rocky. I mean, she'll hit the notes. That could be kind of cool. I like that. Andrew Garfield as Ryland. Andrew Garfield has gotten an A+ on every fucking assignment that he understood, as far as I'm concerned. I've always been Team Andrew, but that's because I have a type. But still. Michelle says, I hate to think this, but I really think that there'd be a lot of civil war everywhere. Most likely across the social divides, rather. Sigourney Weaver as Strat. Oh, I like that. Avery likes Andrew Garfield as Ryland. Isaac's like, Costa Rica's gone. Everything's going to be underwater. Oh, yeah, they blew up the Antarctic. Yeah, sorry, you're done. But at least you get to dive forever. Jessica Chastain as Strat. Jodie Comer as Ilyukna. I like that. That's fun. Jodie Comer's great. Thierry is saying, Ryland Grace is already cast. It is Andrew Garfield. Sorry. That was my fantasy brain talking. It's Ryan Gosling. And the woman who played the Red Priestess on... That's her, right? Kat? What's her name, Thierry? The woman who played the Red Priestess on Game of Thrones, you're saying should be Strat. Oh, Carice van Houten. She and Guy Pearce had a baby. Oh, Gillian Anderson as Strat. I like that, Chris. Van Houten. Am I saying it right? Van Houten? Van Houten. There's some good casting happening. All right. Carice is Dutch, like Strat. And it's time for our Dutch lesson. Je bent lief. Je bent lief is you are nice in Dutch. Je bent een lekker ding is a whole other conversation. But if you know that, but je bent lief. There you go. My Dutch lesson has concluded. William Jackson Harper, The Good Place, was who I was thinking for Grace. And Jablink nailed it with Alan Tudyk as Rocky. Ellie Kemper is Strat. I think maybe a little too young, but I get the vibe you're going for with that one. Vincent Cassel as Leclerc. I like that. I actually pictured Leclerc as almost... I know he's French, but I kind of pictured him, I guess. Yeah, actually, yeah, Vincent Cassel. I love that. I think that's great. Oh, shit, Thierry. No, okay, we've got to go. Dutch, German, Japanese. I do. Dutch, I know a little bit. German... Ich heiße Maude. Ich habe blonde Augen. Ich habe einen schwarzen Hund. And then Japanese. Hatashi no namae wa Maude desu. I usually say Jusansai desu, Hachinensei desu, but I'm no longer 13 in year 8, so I have to say Hajimemashite. Genki desu. Genki desu ka? Sorry. Genki desu. Bonjour, mademoiselle. Oui, oui. Well done, everyone. Maybe a Quebec actor for Francois. Also, oh my gosh, that French actor who passed away who is going to be in Moon Knight, skiing accident. Oh. Hola, buenas noches. Good night. Buenas noches, good night. I did a VO audition for a British woman, very much like an Agent Carter, that says buenas noches, and I had to say it, and I was like, oh, I hope that's right. Ich heiße Avery and ich bin Amerikanerin. I love that. Thank you, Avery. Aha, international language. In saying that, we're wrapping things up. The book for next week, we are getting back on our Mistborn trilogy binge, and we are going to read book 2 of Mistborn. What? Oh, you'd have cast Mashallah Ali as Dubois. Dubois. You've missed Mistborn, says Nox. J Bunt Rock says, I've already started Mistborn book 2. So has Avery, if I'm not mistaken, because we're friends on Goodreads. And then I was like, someone got started. Isaac says I have to start book 1. It's very good, Isaac. It is very good. I know, I totally called you out on that, Avery. I was like, someone's jumping ahead. If you're doing the Nerdist book club, we are doing Sandman. So if you have Audible, you get all of Sandman on there. If you don't, it's broken up into volumes. If you want to listen to the audiobook and read the comic at the same time, Hector Navarro recommends that with flying colors. There is a trigger warning on Sandman for a couple of the chapters, which has already bummed me out a little bit too. Oh, and Ray Porter, the narrator of Project Hail Mary, does some characters in Sandman. So not next week. Wait, yes, next week and the week after? Oh, I've lost my track on days. Next week, it is because we pushed it back because I was sick. Next week, we are doing Sandman. And we're going to be doing that 5 till 6 on Nerdist's YouTube, Geek and Sundry's Twitch, and Nerdist's Facebook page. And then we hit up the Discord section, Reading and Book Club, where we all jump into a book chat, a discussion that is not recorded, that is not distributed. If you are there, if you know, you know. And if you don't, you don't. That's kind of how that goes. Simon Vance is in Sandman as well. He's in bloody everything, isn't he? 24 Hours, Collectors, and Calliope all have trigger warnings. Thank you so much, Avery, for that one. The cafe scene. I was walking around my neighborhood, Fatal Flower. I was walking around my neighborhood and I was scared. I did not like that. Isaac's like, yeah, can't wait to talk cannibalism with Rachel. You know what? Find your people, I say. Find your people. I do not want to look at the art for that in the comic. That's what I was thinking. It is so graphic. It is so visually awful that I never want to see it. It's fucked. It's gross. And the thing is, it's like, it just reminds me that there are really bad people, and I don't like that. I like hope. I need a precious bubble for my head to survive sometimes. Gaia says, thanks so much for the stream. I always love the book chat nights. Thank you, Gaia. Love that you were here. Colleen says the cafe scene was too much for me. Same Z's. Same. And this is the thing. I don't know if I can give Sandman a 5-star because I will never listen to it again. I know that... Oh, he's not here. Game Wizard, Aaron, is up his 5th listen for it. Not me. Nox says, I love book chat even when I haven't read the books. Nox will get you in it. We're going to get you here, bud. We're going to get everyone reading books. Cash22 says, this was fun. I'm glad I got to be a part of it. Got to go back to work now. Lol. Oh, have fun. J Bunt Rock says, thank you so much for helping me get through a miserable cold/COVID tonight. You just never know. Book chat. Hi. Do we want to raid a channel? I was thinking. Should we drop by a channel that we can make their night? For just 5 minutes of our time. Is there anyone, any recommendations? Adam, I think that you should have a salad because usually on Friday nights you get peckish and you eat pizza and like dirty pizza as well. Que pasen buenas noches todos. Not Sage is on again? Is she? I can't see her. Yes, she is. She is. She's just chatting. I think this is happening. We did her last week, though. I loved it. We did do her last week. Is there someone else? I do love supporting women. I absolutely do. Is there anyone? Chow Jordan is on. Shan's on. Every time I take too long to make my decision, everyone's just like, scoot, gotta go, bye. But if you can stay on, that'd be amazing so that we can give some people a love. All right, what are we feeling? Fortnite or Final Fantasy? We're sticking with the Fs. Fortnite, Final Fantasy. What are we thinking? Oh, you did? You prime bombed Crit Bard? That's sweet. Final Fantasy. Alrighty. We are saying hi to Chow Jordan. I forget how to do it in the chat. Did I do it right? Oh, I fucked it up. I spelt it wrong. Jordan with a Y. I'm a dick. Chow Jordan with a Y. We're raiding. Say hi to Jordan. Make her night. She's very, very sweet. She's wonderful. She's playing some Final Fantasy. See you next week for some Sandman. And let's get stuck into Mistborn. If you can bear the narrator. It gets better, Thierry. It gets a little bit better. But I bought the books as well. Good night, everyone. Have fun storming the castle. You think it'll work? It'll take a miracle. Okay, bye-bye. That's a cute ending.